The following is a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. For more information, please visit our website at www.dallasgenealogy.org.
Before I introduce Patty, I would like to let you know about an effort that we are doing. We are trying to develop guidance and kind of ideas about our presentations and meetings, our general meetings. And right now we have a committee of 3 with me, Patty, and Jim to discuss that. And we would like other volunteers. We need input. You know, we want to discuss the type of educational opportunities that we want to give people in our general meetings, and maybe other types of education we can do. So I would like very much to have your input. And if you would send me an email at education@dallasgenealogy.org. The meetings someone I hope will assist me in using Zoom. So if you don't want to, and I know it, you know, if you're living out in other parts of the city, it might be difficult getting down here. So we will try, if we can, we'll try and do it remotely like that. And now I have the honor of introducing our speaker for today. And Patty Hough Smith is our volunteer coordinator, one of many talented people in our society that also do presentations. With the assistance of her 93-year-old grandmother and the genealogy community, Patty has learned research techniques, attended genealogy conferences and workshops to expand her understanding of genealogy and DNA. And right now she is managing 52 of her family DNA kits, which is mind-blowing to me. She has applied her knowledge to equip others in her own journey. Patty, for 10 years, was a marketing coordinator, and then for 10 years, she worked with the Zig Ziglar organization. She's been married for 34 years, and she has 4 grown children. Patty.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Jean. I appreciate that introduction. Well, today's program is called Discovering New Ancestral Information by Connecting Through Social Media. Social media, you get online and try to figure this out, and it becomes pretty overwhelming, doesn't it? There's all sorts of icons and information out there. I got to looking at this and good grief, look how many social media programs. That's 240 social media. I don't know if there's duplicates in there. I didn't research them all. So when I thought about social media, I want to talk to you about what I've done to connect with living relatives that are also researching my own family surnames and how to connect with them. Did everybody get a handout for today's program? All right. So when I thought about social media, we've got to kind of narrow things down. So what I thought was, well, let me look for the top 7 social media sites, and I found a great article I'll share with you. We're also going to talk about the value of social media, how to create a Facebook page for your ancestors, Learn proven Facebook page components to design to attract others that are researching your family. We're going to talk about social networking tools that are a great means for finding additional information about your ancestors and connecting with those researching your family. The online community is a proven source for finding help in identifying family photos and solving family mysteries. We're going to learn how to use social media to discover unknown living relatives. And social media is a great way to stay connected with our family. So the top 7 sites. I saw a really great article by a woman named Christy Kellogg. This was online. It was published on June 11th, 2019 in the Social Media Journal. And she says that the top 7 sites are Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, and Reddit. Facebook has an active monthly users of 2.38 billion people. Twitter has an active monthly user of 321 million. LinkedIn, 303 million. Instagram, 1 billion active users. Snapchat, 330 plus million. Pinterest, 291 million. And Reddit, 330 million. So I had to call the experts and ask them, what are the top sites that you would recommend? My experts are my kids, because children, they're young adults now, and they are all about social media, texting, phones, all the different media outlets. And Jean mentioned that I was the marketing coordinator. It was a company here in Dallas called WW Cannon. It was a materials handling company here in Dallas. And I just went to work for them to make phone calls and introduce our company and see if we could get business from people moving into the Dallas area or around the state of Texas. And when she asked me, my boss asked me if I would work with social media, I was terrified. I had no clue any of this social media things. And I was willing to do it, and I was willing to learn, but I was really terrified of the computer, and that was just 10 years ago. So I learned as I went along. But my experts were my kids, and I talked to my son, who's 22 years old, and I said, so Nathan, what would you say are the 3 top social media sites? And Nathan said, well, Mom, it depends on the audience you're trying to reach. That is a very good thing to keep in mind when you use social media. Who am I trying to reach? What am I trying to accomplish by going on to a social media site? Then my daughter, who's 29, so Nathan's 22, I called my daughter and I said, so Erica, what do you think are the top 3 sites? She said Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But I use Tumblr. And I was like, oh my gosh. So, and then of course, Erica follows up, why do you ask? So anyway, there's so much to learn, and we're going to narrow the focus today. So according to Christy Kellogg, the social, from what she published on the Social Media Journal, she said the seven biggest social media sites in 2019, number 1 was Facebook. And Facebook will increase, all of the social media sites are going to increase exposure. So what I have viewed in the genealogy community is I want my name known and I want my family name known. because as I researched my family when I started about 7 years ago, I couldn't find any of my family members online. There was nothing written about them. There were no politicians that I could find. There was nobody in popular media back in the 1800s, newspapers, that sort of thing. So I had to get creative with how I was going to find my family members. So Facebook is going to increase your exposure. You can gather friends, business leads, and you can do networking. Facebook is free unless you buy ads. It reaches a targeted audience, 2.3 billion users. That was pretty impressive. You can gain insights through Facebook, brand loyalty. You can provide valuable, entertaining content, photos, etc. Using social media increases web traffic. So when I go on to my Facebook page, I go on to the sites of people and organizations that I like. I click like and I click share because that will optimize and get the name out there, whoever I'm trying to promote. So it boosts the search engine optimization. You'll see SEO. Something I love about Facebook, it's mobile ready. You can make phone calls, you can do video chats, and you can do video hosting and have your personal portfolio out there on Facebook. You can also find additional like-minded Facebook pages. So when I thought about how I use Facebook, first of all, you need to create your own Facebook page. So that's the first thing that you need to do. How many have a Facebook page, by the way? Let's see. Okay, most everybody does. All right. And those who don't, it's okay. No pressure, no stress, no condemnation here. Just it's a great outlet, but use what works for you. So you go to facebook.com, and this is the screen that you're going to see. This is the user page screen. So what I would suggest you do, if you don't have a Facebook page and would like to create your own Facebook page, is you've got to create a new account. So you create your own personal account. And why this is important is, remember, we're going to connect our ancestors to our Facebook page. So you have to have your own Facebook page first. It's very, very simple to do. So your name, your mobile phone number, and you create a password and put your birth date in there. So it's as easy as that. This is my home page, and this is my family. This is called a banner photo, the large photo. And I picked that one because I look a little thinner in that picture. My kids are all grown up now. They look pretty young there. But you're going to add a banner photo, and that can be anything. And you can change it as often as you want. There's a little icon right there that shows the photo, and then you can choose from pictures that are on your Facebook page, or you can choose from pictures that are in your own personal photos. Then you can add a profile picture. This particular picture that I chose, in February, it blooms. And this is a picture that is still at my grandmother's property that my brother now owns. And we just call it the tulip tree, but my grandmother planted that back in the 1950s in Waco. So once you get your Facebook page set up, you can start adding family and friends. When I started my Facebook page, which I begrudgingly did, by the way, I really didn't want to get into this social media stuff. And then when I realized we can connect with people, that totally motivated me. So you can start adding family and friends to your Facebook page. So how do you create your ancestors' Facebook page? There's a little button there that says create. So I click the create button, and I'm going to come up with this screen. And by the way, that is on page 2, if you'd like to follow along with me. Page 2 of your handout. Okay, so you're going to have the create button, and then you need to decide what do you want to do. And for me, I wanted to create a group. I wanted to create a family group. Once I click group, I'm going to name it. So I decided to do my 4 grandparents. So I'm going to do 4 separate pages for my 4 grandparents. So my first one that I wanted to do was my maternal family, my dad's maternal line. It was my father's maternal line, and I'll tell you why I was so interested in that in just a minute. So then, hey, add some people. So you create your group, you name your group, and then you're going to start adding people. You can enter a name that's on Facebook, or you can enter an email address. Now I'm going to select a privacy. I only want members to see what's being posted. I want to have my page visible. So I want my page to be visible to people when they're searching for my surnames. But once they find my group, they have to be invited into the group. So they can't just look and see what's going on, because I'm sharing information in my Facebook groups that other relatives might not feel comfortable sharing with the whole world. So you need to determine the visibility. Then you can pin your new page, your ancestors page, to the shortcuts on your Facebook page. So when you're looking at your home page, it's going to have a little shortcut there. And you can see the list of shortcuts that I have for my relatives' Facebook pages. And some of the Facebook pages that I'm looking at are also counties where my family lived in. So then the last step that you do is you create it. You create your group. So those are the steps that you would take to make your ancestors' Facebook group. So these are my 4 grandparents. The Abel and Hough line is my maternal. These are my paternal grandparents. The ones on the right are my maternal grandparents. So I started with the Abel family because we already had an Abel history book that was published in 1978. So I was in college in 1978 in Waco, and I wasn't married yet, so that was published. My kids weren't born yet, so I thought, you know what? We need a book number 2. So I created a Facebook page for the Abel family. Now, what I did was I went back as many generations as I could to name my group. So the group is named the Dr. William Goodhue Abel and Jane Anderson Abel family. That's what I decided to name this group, because they had more than one child, which was my line. They had 8 children. So I want whoever may be searching on Facebook, or they're searching on a browser for the Abel family, if somebody searches a browser for William Goodhue Abel, I want them to be able to find, thank you, I want them to be able to find my Facebook page, because I'm searching for people who have information on my family. I want people living so that I can share information that I found with them, and they can share information with me. This particular photograph was a very small cardboard photograph that was cracking and crumbly, and this photo was actually repaired by Ken Johnston. I took the photograph to him and said, "Can you do anything with it?" And look what a beautiful job he did. Those are my great grandparents in the center They had 6 boys first in order, and they had 6 girls second, and then they had a boy and a girl. So out of their 14 children, 12 made it to adulthood, and 11 of their children had children. So my father had 59 first cousins. So I thought this was a good place to start, is with them, because with 59 cousins, hopefully I'm going to be able to find a big group of people that are researching the Abel family. So this was them in the cornfield in Coryell County. After that, now he was born here. These 2 particular were born in Coryell County, but his father had come from Marshall County, Alabama, to Coryell County, Texas. So I pick a banner picture that I think will attract interest, and I'm wanting to know which one. All of the 6 boys are in the photograph, and then there's 3 little girls. So my grandmother hadn't even been born yet when this photograph was taken. So what I'm going to do, once I create the page, I'm going to invite people into my particular page for this family group, which is the Abel family group. So you can enter names and email addresses to beef up your family members. So I have 90 members in this Abel family group. And that sounds like a lot of people, and it is, but when you think about 59 first cousins, there's got to be more people out there. But not everybody likes Facebook, so that's okay. I can still share information through the mail or by phone. So I can create a topic from my Facebook page, or I can create an event. So what I decided was, I'm going to create an event. I'm going to do a family reunion. The cousins had all, my dad's first cousins had all gotten older, and a lot of them were passing away. So this next generation coming up, we need to take the helm and continue the tradition that they started of these family reunions. And we hadn't had one in probably 5 years. So I got with my sister and brother-in-law, and I said, hey, let's do a family reunion in Crawford. They always did it in the family reunions in Crawford. I said, let's follow the same tradition, since that's what they're used to. So I clicked on the event button, and I get a page that looks like this. So now I'm going to create an event for Dr. William Goodhue Abel and his wife, Jane Anderson. So I put a photograph that I hope is going to remind people, oh, yes, I remember my great aunt. I remember my grandmother. And in the center here is my great-grandmother that was in the cornfield earlier at a younger age, but that's her with her 12 living children. So I'm going to put a photograph on there that I hope is going to generate some interest. So I'm going to put the location. I'm going to put the description of our program. What are we going to be doing? We had a Friday night social night where I shared a DVD that my dad had put together from home movies that started in 1938. So the home movie started in 1938 and ended with my wedding in 1985. So I created a flyer, and this is what the flyer looked like. And these are the 2 that I created the Facebook post or the whole site. And I just put all of the detailed information about this family reunion that we were going to do. I also included, when I invited people through the mail and through emails and through my Facebook page, I was like, when you come, please have the family group record either printed or be prepared when you come to give me a family group record. So I had a stack of family group records because I want information from them. I'm doing DNA. I'm trying to compare DNA, trying to find more relatives on the Abel side of the family. I want information so we can continue the Abel family story in book number 2. This is a photograph of the people who came in 2015 to our family reunion. We had over 100 people, and I did not let them leave unless they gave me a family group record. Like, I'm going to capture all of this information. And we had scanners. I had asked them to bring their photos from their family, archives, and we had 2 scanners at this event and put them on flash drives so that I could get photographs that they held dear to them but didn't want to let go of. So I got a lot of good information, and we're well on our way to publishing book number 2. Also on the page, I was able to post my dad's, right before this 2015, my dad passed away. My dad was in the Air Force, and we traveled all over the country. We moved from Alaska to Waco, Texas in 1972. And on the right-hand side was his first cousin, Jimmy Wade, and he died May 18th. And I had had a great conversation with him the week before he passed away, and it was just a couple of weeks before our event, our family reunion. So what I can share on my Facebook page is my DNA results. You know, Jean mentioned that I've got 52 family members that I'm managing DNA kits for. Well, this particular cousin, what about Beth? Her name is Beth. She lives in Idaho. And she and her husband are very, very big genealogists. And it was her father, Donald Ray Abel, that did a lot of the research with the other cousins for the first book. So she still has a lot of information, and finding her on my DNA match, I've been able to contact her, and she and I have shared a lot of information. In fact, that particular photograph was one that she shared with me. So something else you can do on your Facebook page is create a poll. And there's just a little icon there. Click on the poll. And what my first cousin Susie did was she was going to be referred to a rheumatologist, and she wanted to do a medical poll and find out if any of the other Abel family members had this angioedema, which was a particular disease that ran through Franklin Thomas Abel, my great-grandfather. So when we moved from Alaska to Texas and moved to Waco, my parents' hometown, they had gathered together a doctor who was doing research on the angioedema. It was not as widely known back in 1972. And so what my cousin was trying to find out, who else has this? And one of our first cousins had it very bad and passed away at age 60. So it's good to be able to talk to people who have similar issues. So one of the things that I am able to do is post these really cool newspaper articles that I'm finding. So the first ABC reunion held at Y Camp was in August of 1954. So it lists all the members of the family that attended this reunion. So this is a great genealogy gold mine for me to find out who was at this particular reunion. Now, in 1954, my dad was over in Japan, so he wasn't there. And then I'm able to post that I got this cute little photo of my great-grandmother, and so I'm able to post these kind of things on the page. And my relatives love what I'm doing. They love it, but how many of you know not everybody's going to post like you do? They love, they like, they share. And I'm like, come on, let's get involved. You guys have got information too. So I start asking, tell me a story that you remember, because I never met my granny. So I get stories, which is really, really fun. So let's talk about the Hough family. This is my dad's father's side of the family. So I found this amazing photograph of the Hough family. And I was thinking the little guy in the front on the left side in the white shirt, His name's Andrew, and my great-grandfather Huff was Andrew Huff. So this is Andrew Huff, but it wasn't the right Andrew Huff, but I liked the photograph, so I went ahead and kept it on there. All of the young people in this photograph, they, this particular group, they're all my third cousins from my great-great-grandfather. So they do a family reunion down in Eastland, Texas. So I started seeing on the Coryell County Facebook page some of my Hough family relatives' photographs. And so I emailed this, or Facebook messaged this lady that was showing my Hough family photographs, and she says, "Oh yeah," she says, "This is my husband's family." So I was able to get a lot of information from her, and she says, "Hey, we're having a family reunion. Do you guys want to come?" I said, "I'd love to come." And I still had this picture, but I still couldn't figure out, how do I connect with these people? I went to the family reunion. I had no idea. I knew they were sharing my Huff side of the family photograph, so I'm like, we've got to be connected somehow. And I finally did solve the mystery. So we were always told we were German. The Huff family came from Germany. And, we mentioned the German SIG group that meets here at the library. And I was so excited thinking that we were going to be German, but I wasn't able to get my dad's DNA. So I went to my half uncle. He was my dad's half brother. They shared the same father, but had a different mother. And I asked him if he would be willing to do his DNA. And he graciously complied and gave his DNA. And we have 5% Germanic Europe. And we didn't have as much German DNA as I thought that we did. We all share a lot of English and Ireland and Scotland. So this is a photograph of my great-grandparents on their wedding day. She was 14 and he was 19, Andrew Huff and Annie Parker. And then their 40th wedding anniversary photograph. So I've been able to share this with my family, and a lot of the family members are like, "We've never seen these pictures before." So it's a lot of fun to get them involved and interested. Also, you get new members. We do get people that will ask to be invited into the group. And when you're the administrator of the group, you get to decide who gets to come into the group. People from Nigeria are probably not a Huff family related, so I get to decide, am I going to, and I may send them a little note, not that I couldn't have family members distant from Nigeria, but I get to, decide, are they really researching Huff history? So recently, just on January the 22nd, this gentleman, Merle, asked to be part of the group. And I was like, okay, well, we chatted, and he's legit. He is a Huff descendant. And so then he got this other guy, Phil, who's also a descendant of the Huffs. And so this guy, Phil, has been posting just all sorts of very interesting information about how you can research your genealogy. And look at this, it was Pinterest. He shot something on the 28th, January the 28th, from Pinterest. So Facebook and using your ancestors page can create an opportunity for you to break brick walls in your genealogy research. I met a new cousin back in May. She's a Huff cousin. She's actually my fourth cousin. And when I found out that she lived here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I said, hey, why don't we meet sometime? So she brings her laptop, I bring my laptop, and we collaborate together. And something that had bugged both of us was how to reconcile two Pernelli Elizabeth Huffs. So they're like fourth great grandmother, like in way back. So she and I worked on this for hours and hours, and we finally found a death certificate that gave us the information that broke that brick wall. So now we know that there are two Pernelli Elizabeth Huffs that were born and died on different dates. So we know there are two different ones, and we finally broke that brick wall, and we're able to share that on our Facebook page. We can share knowledge. This Merle, who just joined my Huff group, is actually a presenter. He was doing in fact, today, he's doing a wide DNA testing in Tennessee, where he's from. So now I've got somebody who's interested in DNA on my Huff side of the family. I am so stoked that I'm going to be able to work with him on the Huff family. I'm able to post on my Huff family genealogy, hey, if you're in Dallas, come to the program today. And so let's look at my maternal side of the family. This is my mom's father. This is my mother's paternal line. Now, I'm very interested in researching the Crook family because in 1927, my mom's grandfather left with his secretary and left the family holding the bag with his debts and bills and creditors chasing after my great-grandmother. So he left her with three young sons, a 15-year-old son, which was my granddad, and a 10-year-old son and a 5-year-old son. He was a home builder in Waco and had built this elaborate 6,000 square foot home in Cameron Park. It was an absolutely gorgeous home, but left her. And so Lily did not want to talk about Walter ever. So Mom didn't know anything past his name. So we happened to get a photograph. This is the entryway to the home in Cameron Park. And the oldest of the boys there is my grandfather, my mom's dad, and his two siblings and two cousins. So I'm going to be posting things on my page that hopefully will interest. This is my granddad, and this was his father. This was the rascal that left in 1927. Good-looking charmer, I'm sure he was. But he left. She had to sell the family home. It was so sad. Well, when he left with the secretary, I kept asking my mom, did they have children? No, they didn't have any children. They didn't have any children. So for 10 years, even before I actually started my genealogy journey, I tried to find any information about this gentleman and where he went and what he did after he left in 1927. Come to find out, they did have a daughter, and her name is Joan. She's 86 years old. She lives in Montgomery, Alabama. So I've been able to talk with her about her dad. She had never seen this picture, so I was able to share photographs with her about her father. But that ended up in a sideways situation, my relationship with Joan. We had talked for almost 2 years, and we had just gotten along so well over the telephone. And I said, I would love to meet you. I said, it's a lot of fun meeting cousins on Ancestry.com. But I said, you're my aunt, and I have found you. I didn't find her on Ancestry, but I did end up finding her. And then we had a trip planned. My sister and I had the trip planned. She talked to her daughter, and her daughter said, no way. And man, she put the brakes on the whole deal, and I was crushed. So I got creative, and I decided on Find a Grave, I'm going to post some photographs of Walter Crook. And I don't know if you can see the little note here, but it says, my great-grandfather, Walter Session Crook, please help our family. We have been searching for years for Walter's daughter, Joan Lee Crook, born January 24th, 1933. So if you can see, I posted that on November the 9th, 2014. So about 3 months ago, I get an email from a woman, and she says, I'm Joan's daughter. And so now I've got this moral dilemma. Am I going to tell Joan that things went really crossways with her mother? How am I going to do this over email? So we emailed several times, and then I said, Joan, are you willing to talk over the phone? And she said, oh, I'd love to. So we start chatting over the telephone a couple of weeks later, and I finally broached the subject about how things got crosswayed with her mom. And there's this long pause and silence, and I'm thinking, oh my God, is she going to hang up on me? And she says, Patty, I am so sorry. She said, I have not talked to my mother since 1986. And I thought, oh my gosh. So she said, this really doesn't surprise me that she cut you off so suddenly and quickly. She did the same thing to me. So now I have a great relationship with Joan's daughter, and she and I are writing a curriculum right now called Family Patterns, because we began comparing notes about how this Crook family deserted. They had mental issues. They had divorce after divorce. So a lot of betrayal, a lot of financial issues, and so on and so forth. So we're now working together. So I also wanted to find additional Crook family members that may have information on the Crook family, since I didn't know anything past Walter. So I found the Crook family group, and I decided to reach out to them. And the way that they described their group was, it's a secure place for the Crook family to talk, share pictures and events in your life, or whatever you want. So in September 2015, I reached out to them, and I found the 5 grandsons of Will Crook and Edith Merlot. They only knew Edith. They had never met Will, their granddad, and their grandmother lived until the 90s, but it was before I was able to visit with her. So these 5 brothers lived in Bossier City, Louisiana, and I got to thinking, and they still do, actually. 4 of the brothers still live in Bossier City, Louisiana, where my dad was stationed at one of the Air Force bases there, Barksdale Air Force Base. So the gentleman on the right, I was going to Shreveport for another event. I contacted him, and I said, his name is Donnie, and I said, hey, Donnie, I'm going to be in Shreveport. Would it be convenient for us to maybe go out and have a cup of coffee? I'd love to meet you, meet your family. Well, he didn't know this, but I had slipped a DNA kit into my bag before I came. And also, I brought with me information on the Crook family, because as we began talking, he's my point person for this family. As we began talking, he said, Patty, I knew nothing about the Crook family. I have learned more from you in these conversations. So I was able to find the marriage announcement for his grandparents, and I posted it on their site. So they're really grateful for what I've been able to contribute. And I was extremely grateful for Donnie contributing his DNA, because now I'm able to connect further back with him. So also, I was able to connect with a woman through DNA. Her name is, let me see what her name is, Laura. And Laura and I are very distant cousins, and I kept telling her we're a DNA match. She said, we're not a match. We're not a match. I said, we are a match. And so I asked her to get on jedmatch.com. And so once she did and loaded up her kit number, I was able to do some screenshots and show her we actually are a DNA match. And she goes, oh my gosh, I'm writing this new Crook Chronicles book. So she's got 2 volumes. And I was able to provide information to her back to my 4th great grandparents, and connect my family to her family. So anyway, that was pretty cool. She put us in there. And this is my favorite family to research. It's the Peters family. I was very close to the Peters. And this is their photograph from 1914. So the little girl and the little boy on the left-hand side are my aunt and my uncle, Aunt Maggie and Uncle Sam. And I knew them very well. They were very, very instrumental in my life. And then the couple seated, I never knew. She didn't ever help me make the connection, but those are actually my great-grandparents. So I named this Facebook group after my great-grandparents. This is the extended family. And Aunt Maggie had what we called a wall of fame. When you walked into her house, if your photograph was up on her wall, you were somebody. She passed away in 1990, and I kept asking my family, what happened to the photos? Well, in 2013, because I had created this Facebook page, I had a relative reach out to me on Facebook and said, I'm cleaning out my mom's attic, and I just found 3 huge boxes of photographs, photo albums, her only child's baby book from 1927 was in the box. All the photographs were in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And she said, well, you want to come get them? I'm like, oh my gosh, how fast can I get down there? I was still had kids at home at that point. So Facebook's been a great place for me to post these photographs and help get these photographs identified. Some of them were on cardboard. I probably have a couple dozen that are on cardboard. I had no idea who these people were. So I knew they were somehow related to the Peters family. So I've been able to get a lot of help with this. In the photographs, there was a 4-generation picture. That is, on the left-hand side, is my great-great-grandmother, my great-grandfather, my grandmother, and the baby is my mom. And so these are my grandparents on their wedding day. Also, another cousin contacted me through Facebook, and she said, hey, I have 2 cigar boxes, and I have a couple of photographs in there, but the letters are so fragile, I'm scared to open them up. Are you interested in this information? Because I've got my information out there and I keep reaching out to my family members. They're like, oh, okay, she's the contact person for the family genealogy. And so I have people giving me information. So this photograph and this letter was in one of these cigar boxes. The letter is dated April the 20th, 1895, and the person who signed the letter was the grandmother of Allie Peters. So Allie Peters is my great-great-grandmother, and now I was looking at a letter from my great-great-great-great-grandmother who was born in 1818, and this photograph was in the box. And on the back of the photograph, it said, Mama's grandmother who raised her. So Aunt Maggie is the daughter of Allie, and this grandmother raised my great-great-grandmother. So it was pretty cool getting all of this information. And this is something else that I posted that I found online. It says at home, November 26th, 1884. And it is my great-great-grandfather, William Edward Peters, who fought in the Civil War. It was him giving permission for his oldest son to marry. And so now I have a copy of this. And William Edward Peters was a notary public when he came to Waco, and I have those documents as well. So other things that you can post on Facebook are your findings about William Edward Peters being part of the Civil War. So these are just some examples of what you can do. Also, I can post on Facebook the National Archives, how to get started on your genealogy research. There's videos, family history workshops. I've posted newspaper clippings. This one came from Guntersville, Alabama on June 18th, 1891. I always wondered how Mary Elizabeth had passed away. I didn't have any information except that she died right before her wedding date. And there was a beautiful article that I found on newspapers.com, and it answered so many of our relatives' questions about what happened to her. So also I post events that are coming up here. Then the Wolf family is my mother's family. So this is my great-grandmother, and I had no information on her at all. So I was able to find, through researching and trying to find living relatives of the Wolf family so I could get DNA from them. And I had a photograph that was taken about a year before this picture was taken. And then this looks like possibly a wedding of the two in the very back, on the back left. And the one in the center is my great-grandmother, Ethel. So I was able to get DNA from a lady down in Houston who's related to the Wolf family. And I had a picture that was taken before this one, and she said, you know, this picture you're showing me kind of looks like this one in the living room. And she goes, come with me. And she said, it was in my sister's attic, and she was going to throw it away because she didn't know who they were. And I didn't know who they were either, but I thought it was a cool picture. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, well, let me introduce you to your grandmother. And the little girl in the front was her grandmother. And then the woman in the back is my great-grandmother. So I posted some pictures on the Facebook page, and I also posted pictures on Ancestry of this Wolf family. And then I find out that they're having a reunion the next day after I found out. And so I said, well, would you mind if I come to your reunion? And so I went to Wolf City, Oklahoma. I had like 12 hours to prepare for it, but I had just gotten that photograph. So I was like, oh, I want to see. So anyway, I've been able to connect now with the Wolf family, and they had a picture. They created a group called the Wolf Family Reunion, and I was able to find the homestead. This is where my great-great-grandparents lived in Oklahoma in the late 1800s. And then on the Wolf Family Reunion site, Joanne, one of my cousins, wrote, I was born in this house on December the 5th, 1948. So it was pretty cool getting that information. So other things we can post, of course, we want to post the DGS. We can post about the Texas State Genealogical Society and the upcoming conference in November, the 13th through the 15th. And on Facebook, there is a massive amount of information. There's the Texas Genealogy Network, the Texas Genealogy. There's a site called Random Acts of Photo Restoration. You can post your photo on there, and people will volunteer to touch up your photo for you. Then Ancestry, when I have questions about Ancestry, I just shoot them a message on Facebook, and I always get a response from them. They're very, very good about that. There's a group called Ancestry DNA, GEDmatch, 23andMe, FTDNA, MyHeritage, etc. And I learn a lot from these groups. If you have adoptions that you're looking for, there's DNA Detectives. You've got Ancestry DNA Matching. And I love this one, Ancestry for Dummies. There's also a group called Dead Fred. Have you ever heard of Dead Fred? This is where you can post your old photos and see if somebody recognizes them. Also, when you go on their website to deadfred.com, you can actually look up your surnames and see if somebody has already posted people that you're looking for. Now, when I worked as a marketing coordinator, we did all the 7 major social media sites, but we used one resource, and it's called HootSuite. So if you want to really get into reaching out to the genealogical community and to your relatives, you can use HootSuite. And what that does is it manages all your social media profiles from one dashboard. I loved using this because I could write my blog and then I put my information into HootSuite, and then I could pick dates that I wanted it to go out, dates and times that I wanted it to go out on Twitter, when I wanted it to go out on Facebook. And because of the search engines, the search engine optimization, you can find out when is the best time to post your Twitter or your Google Plus event or article. So this is a really good site too if you want to get more into it. But I want to wrap up. I want to just check with you and see, do we have any questions? Because that was a lot of information. I want to see if there's any questions about what I shared today, or maybe you have a thought you might want to share. Anybody? I was that good? Okay, how about the best idea? What was the best idea that you learned today? Did you learn anything new? Is there anything you might want to try now that you have heard the program? Anybody? Dead Fred. I know, I love that site. And you can post your pictures too. So you can look for your pictures and post pictures. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Any comments? Yes, ma'am.
So you have these. Okay, so you've set up several of these, and you've posted various, nuggets of information about your family. Is there an easy way to, say, at the end of the year, to pull off that and create a book so that you have a hard copy that may last longer than Facebook? Although I don't think Facebook's going away, but.
That is a very good question. So is there a way to gather the information? Let's say at the end of the year, you want to gather the photographs and all. Definitely you can do that. There's a program called Evernote, and Evernote is a great program to store your photographs and store your information. But also, all of the information that I share on my Facebook pages, I have on my Ancestry account. So I also have an account called, or I have a program called Family Tree Maker. So I've downloaded the information that I'm sharing on Facebook into Ancestry.com, and then I share, and I can publish Family Tree Maker, which is what I'm working on, the Able Family book that I'm working on. It's all going into that Family Tree Maker. That's kind of like the backbone of the Able book that I'm working on right now. Okay. So there's all kinds of different ways you can do that. Got lots of options. Yes, ma'am.
Years ago, I thought this and then when I looked at stopped supporting it, I threw it away. Well, now I'm finding out someone bought it and they're supporting it. Mm-hmm. So now I've got Roots Magic. So are you saying that you can actually make a book from Family Tree Maker?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to just buy a new copy.
All right. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? All right. Okay.
I've got a question from one of our remote participants, Carolyn Davis is asking, what other social media accounts do you use?
In particular, I only use Facebook and emails. However, when I was working full-time, I used Twitter, Google Plus, and I think those were the major ones that we used. It was Twitter, Google Plus, Facebook, and we had YouTube. So I definitely would recommend YouTube if you've got something you'd like to say or share. I would use that as well. Not that I'm against it, but I only have a certain amount of time that I can devote to this, and so that's why I chose Facebook as being the one that, the social media account I use. Okay. Any other question? All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being so attentive.
Thank you all for joining us today, both in person and online. And remember, the March meeting will be upstairs on the 8th floor. We will also do the Zoom meeting from the 8th floor. So we will see you next month. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Dallas Genealogical Society. If you're already a member, thank you. Your membership dues are supporting this and other society activities. If you're not yet a member, I hope you consider joining. You can become a member for as little as $35 a year, and you can join by going to our website, dallasgenealogy.org, and clicking on the membership tab.